Thanks for joining me. Today, I'll show you how you can start with conversational requirements and get to a fully working app in about an hour using AI. I spent decades leading IT teams in data and software development, and one constant battle was business leaders would provide requirements that simply didn't include enough detail. Developers would build to those requirements, and the leaders were just not happy with the end product. That same problem is amplified with AI. It doesn't have the tribal knowledge that senior developers would have. It only knows what you gave it. So requirements matter even more with AI. But with enough context and detail, AI can just about fully automate the building process. I'm going to show you that today.
As I mentioned, the most important part of this process is to get the requirements right. And I'm not intending to say that you should spend days writing requirements by hand. We're going to have AI help us do this in a big way. Typically, what I'll do is as I have a new project, I'll create a new project in ChatGPT, give it a name, add any documentation I already have. This is much further along than what I would have started with. In fact, I kind of started with this document that I'd handwritten a few months ago, which really even had a lot of errors, but it did have some of the 5 minute pieces and some of the main parts in here. So it was a decent starting point, but not great. Maybe it's just a meeting. You could get an AI meeting notes, anything, just to kind of get it context started. And then I had done this before, but I was kind of re-engaging the project after many months. And so I just kind of loaded up those requirements and said, okay, let's get started. And so I go on a walk. I literally take my phone, have ChatGPT's mobile app open. I have it record my voice, which is what this is, and then read back, and then I'll just read back to me what it comes up with. And I'll do this for about whatever it takes. Usually it's like a half an hour walk about the town. Um, and I'll just kind of keep reiterating through this, coming up with different questions that I might have in my head. I'll ask it questions, would it get its opinion? Um, I'll tell it, no, you're wrong. I want to do it this way. And then it always wants to code. I usually kind of ignore that, but maybe I want to see something. I don't remember what this was, but so kind of always lean it like, hey, I'm on a walk. I literally often tell it that, so it kind of understands that it can't. I'm not going to sit there and paste anything. Um, but eventually you see these instructions are getting longer and longer and longer as I go through this. Um, Ultimately, what I want to get to is a markdown, what I call PRD, project requirements document. And so that's essentially what it created here. It's not the name I ended up with, but this is kind of the first requirements document that I had. And I'll show that to you.
So I'm in Cursor now, and I thought I'd show you the original project requirement document that I created from ChatGPT and then kind of where we progressed with some iteration. So the original is here, and it came out to about 111 lines, not very much, but it did capture most of the main components. I immediately put this into Cursor and started asking questions about other things it might need and that kind of thing. I probably could have done a little bit more on my walk than I did, but it's a good starting point. Ultimately, I eventually got to this much more detailed, but this is after quite a few iterations, and now we're at almost 600 lines. Um, but some of them I did immediately realize I needed. I needed a directory structure. So this has grown since I originally started, but I really like having at least the main directory. So the documents directory, the web app directory, the backend directory, and the Terraform directory. But what I've done is I've let AI keep adding to this as I've been iterating through the first build, and I've done two other full builds before this and gotten to this requirements.
And then we have the task document. This document is exactly what AI will go through step by step, with the exception of step zero, which are steps for me. Most of these were done before and just always need to make sure I do the Google Cloud authentications to start. This one's been checked already, but it creates the foundations, the dependencies, does the core services, does the backend API, and so I tend to run these in stages. Eventually, as it goes through, we get to step 7, which is the connecting everything together, and stage 8, which is the final testing and verification. So each of these steps will be done by AI, one stage at a time, and then it will come back and check things off. Before I do the build, I want to do a short demo of a previous build so you understand the application. The application is day 1 of a multi-day strategic workout. It's intended to capture strategic questions that the user might have, whether personal or business, and help them identify which questions are easy or which are harder to answer. Future workouts would help you identify ways to get the answers to those harder questions. To begin, we'll just enter a new journey name and get started. You've got some instructions on the right. I'll ask it. This is a little AI chat window where you can ask AI questions. Can you provide examples? And in a second, it should come back and, okay, what kind of work truly energizes me? How can I deepen my connection with loved ones? Those are good questions. They're great. That's exactly what we're looking for. So start the timer. If I don't enter anything for about 10 seconds, production is about 5 minutes, but this one's accelerated for testing. There it goes. Kind of gives me a little hint. I'll go ahead and enter a few questions real quick. We'll continue to the refine stage, which identifies questions with yes/no answers, where we want more open-ended answers. The ordering piece does not exist anymore as the requirements change to identifying hard-to-answer questions next. And you can finish and save and you're done, and then you can click through and go back to where you on this. Great. So that's the pre-demo.
I also want to talk about some of the other files that I've included that aren't really in the requirements, and I'll explain why I have these. This first one's pretty obvious. I just needed the logo. The next one, the prompts one I'll go through next. So this is a little complicated, and I still have AI generate this, generally speaking, but I'll go ahead and edit little bits of it as needed. These are the prompts for AI, not for building anything, but for running the AI, and you saw that in the demo. And I'd rather edit it here than somewhere in the code. That way I can edit this separately. Instructions HTML. This is a very specific how to make the page look formatted. I put the instructions in HTML. So those are in HTML just for formatting purposes and consistency. The final file is this constants file. These two are the length of the duration of the capture. I have it set to actually I want to set 45 right now. This is how long it will wait. Normally this would be 600 or sorry, 300 for production, 5 minutes. But for testing, I don't want it to go that long. Similar here, I just wanted to kind of highlight that I'm not moving along. It's probably going to be closer to 30 seconds for production. This is just a phase. Honestly, I don't really need this, except I'm going to be adding new phases later, so it's better to do a variable now. The local storage key is just this is the name for accessing the local storage, so it has a standard naming within the application. This is the prompt mode, so we're talking about business versus personal in the HTML. That's we're doing it as personal right now. Before AI does its thing, I'll just go over the stage 0, which are the things that I need to do. Most of these I only have to do once. Set up the different files, add the git ignore so that things are ignored in git, um, install Google Cloud and utilities, things like that. The only thing I have to do each run is 11 and 12, where I authenticate into Google Cloud, and just have this checklist to make sure those are done before we start.
Okay, I think we're about ready to begin the build here. I've gone ahead and given it a prompt to really encourage it to look at the PRD and task document and let it go on its build. Stage 1 builds the foundation, basically installing the Vibe server and the directories and copying the pre-files into the right directories. Now, critically, I've added steps in here for it to begin testing. So it's now testing, and it's also going to test for linting errors, which are essentially is the code going to compile correctly. So it did that with success. Okay, now it's completed all the coding, and it's now going to update the task checklist to show that it's completed the tasks. Here it gives a nice summary of what it's completed. I'll typically review this, and I'll hit keep all because I'm not really reviewing what it's doing specifically. And you can see that it took about just over 3 minutes and 45 seconds to complete. Okay, with stage 2, we can use a bit of a simpler prompt because it already has the original instructions. Other than that, we'll just let it do its thing. Stage 2 builds out some of the core services connecting to the storage and state management within React to identify what buttons should or should not show and what screen you're on within React. Besides the testing each time, I have it do a commit at the end of the stage so we can go back to that and get if we ever need to. And it's updating the task document, nearly complete. And now it's complete and showing the summary of what to do, which is always good to review. And now for stage 3. Stage 3 sets up the Backend API, which is used to connect to the Google AI API. For security reasons, you have to have a separate backend for this. Plus, it makes it easier to migrate to the cloud. I really like how it's run these curl commands to verify that the API is responding. Again, we get a good summary of what it's done. It's implemented the APIs and did a fair amount of testing them. One of my observations is that AI, in its effort to make the test successful, will use mocks rather than ensuring it's connecting to the Gemini API. So I'm going to ask it to confirm that it's actually connecting to the Gemini API and not using mocks. Besides its own confirmation, I could see that it was really testing this and really came to confirm that it is using Gemini. And now for stage 4. Stage 4 integrates the front end with the backend API and does that testing to make sure it's working. Okay, stage 5. Stage 5 builds out all the UI components. It's a pretty big stage. You can quickly see here that stage 5 really builds out a lot of components, but stage 6 will put it all together. So I got this message from the AI prompt, and I'm using Claude this time around. I've used different models and sometimes get different things that happen. It seemed like the most logical solution was to go ahead and start a new chat. I noticed that I was highlighting before that the context was slightly high, but not terribly. And usually it fixes itself with that. But anyway, just creating a new prompt here worked fine. I just need to kind of reiterate the instructions more detailed than I have been in the last few stages. Well, there are remaining steps. Looking at these instructions, I like how it says that the application is essentially nearly complete. Okay, stage 7 builds out the final integration and builds out the testing. So it's connected the services and then it starts doing a lot of testing and validation, a little bit of visual quality audit as well, and polishing it up. So largely the application's done, but we have one more stage to go. Stage 8 is the final validation. It's going to validate that everything meets the requirements. And I found this is a critical step to just fix anything that hadn't gone right before. Okay, stage 8, final verification complete. Reviewed the requirements, the technical requirements, all the integration points, visuals, and final commits were done, and actually even started the servers and everything so we can go and see if this thing's actually working. Well, this is the fun part because you're never quite sure what you're going to get, but here it is. The application is up and running. I'll go ahead and enter my name to get something started. It's already got one in there from the testing the AI was doing. Uh, Instructions on the right, as we expected. This is great. And with the AI on the bottom, let's see if the AI Gemini is working. That pretty much looks like AI. It didn't exactly give me the example I wanted, but it certainly looks like AI. Let's see if we can actually get it to give me an example. Okay, I think that works pretty well. This is good because it's forcing me to hit the timer before I enter a question. We'll go ahead and start the timer. Timer's working. Great. We're going to wait for it to go to 35 and see if it reprompts. And it didn't, so there's one missing feature. Go ahead and enter some questions. For time's sake, I'll speed things up to just show the example. I'm intentionally entering some questions that will be yes, no, and some that would be more open-ended. Okay, great. The timer stops as expected. It also is letting me enter another question. I have this as a feature so it doesn't just cut you off mid-question. You can continue just past the timer. Okay, we'll continue the refined section. Oh, good. It's highlighted yes, no questions correctly. That's good. Let's try and edit one. And that was weird. All right. I can't edit that again. Not loving that. All right. Try again. And same issue. Okay, we definitely have a bug here. All right, let's copy this and give it to Cursor and explain that we have a bug. Okay, in Cursor now, I have going to paste what I just copied and tell it that I'm unable to type after typing a letter and ask it to fix this bug. I can see it's having a little trouble figuring it out, and I realized I didn't really tell it was in the refine phase, so just wanted to redirect it there. I also noticed it keeps referring to the enter key, and I wasn't actually pressing the enter key, so again, aligning it to what the problem really is. Okay, it thinks it's found the problem and has a solution and has implemented that solution for me to test. Okay, we'll try this again. We'll go ahead and create a new journey just to make a good fresh start. All right, start the timer and start entering questions. Okay, now we're ready at the refine stage. Let's see if this edits correctly. And at last, it does not. Okay, let's try again. All right, well, back to the drawing board, and this time we'll get a screenshot and give that to Cursor. Alrighty, back in Cursor, we'll paste that screenshot and let it know that we have the same issue. Um, and let's see what it does. And right about here, it's starting to figure out that maybe there's something else to fix. Okay, right about here, it seems like it's figured out the issue, it's got it fixed. And while it was waiting there, I also started asking it to fix another thing, which is the 10-second count, why it's not capturing that, which was was rule 16 in the capture, well, is in the capture phase, and 16, so I've highlighted it here. So we'll let it work on that for a minute. Okay, getting done, and with any luck, these two items will be fixed. Okay, here we are back at the home page again. It did start a new server, so it lost my data, but that's not a big deal for this purpose. Go ahead and start the timer again and enter our questions. Actually, let's wait see if it gets to 35 and sends that prompt. Oh, there it is. Look at that. So that's fixed. Although I could certainly improve the what it says, but basically it's fixed. And we'll enter some questions. Okay, now to see if refine works. Let's change this question. One subtle feature is it doesn't allow you to continue until you've actually started typing in this, removed all the yes, no questions. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Okay, this is the first time we're seeing the scoring. The instructions are on the right side, so that's good. We'll go ahead and score some of these and see. And okay, it's updating the colors, which is nice. Might enhance that a little bit, but the basics are there. And as you score the last question, you can now go to answering. And here you can answer all your questions. Again, the instructions are on the right. All right, finished up with these questions, and here's the new summary. I hadn't seen this before. Showing a number of questions, how many high priority, and just kind of a general summary. Not really part of the requirements, but sure, why not? And then back to the main page. And kicking on continue journey takes you to the summary, which is all that's available now. Makes sense. Well, as a whole, I think we have a working app. One or two bugs to fix, but as a whole, it really did build most of what we asked. So I'm happy about that.
So there it is. We took an idea, and with the application of AI in multiple ways, we were able to build a fully functional application in less than an hour. This wasn't magic. It worked because we fed AI three critical things. First, a very detailed product requirements document. Second, a detailed and phased task list. And third, we insisted that the AI test after each phase until those tests succeeded. Remember that AI doesn't have the tribal knowledge of that programmer you've had for the last decade. You have to give it that knowledge. I really thank you for watching, and I'd love your feedback. And if you'd like my help or anything, please reach out to me. Thank you.